so you are aware that we will be coming back. Please go ahead and click the prompt to join your breakout room, and we'll see you when you're done.
Hello, all. Hello.
Hello.
Good to see
Hello
you.
there.
Yes. This is an opportunity for us to dive into hearing your thoughts. And this is a small space so that you all feel like you have time to dive in. And Natalie may be shifting and doing some shifting as folks are leaving in and out of the meeting space. And so let's see. Miss Teresa, are you helping me in the space? So today we're going to talk a little bit about response to kind of the general project information, all of that important information that you all saw, the mapping, the broad district context that we were talking about, and how this project fits in the midst of a lot of projects that are happening, as well as the priorities that we just used on the Mentimeter, and what are we missing? Some of the things that Mr. Posey was talking about, others that Ms. Kimberly Horner was referring to. So we'd love to just dive into those things. Maybe let's start with some of the community priorities. That was the conversation that we just left on, all fitting under those buckets of wealth, health, and cohesion, community wealth, community health, and cohesion. Maybe, Teresa, could you share those 10 community priorities? That will give us kind of a foundation for our discussion, and we can dive in.
Let me advance my slides. I'm still on the break thing.
Okay. Awesome. So as you see, under community wealth, there are 4 priorities in regards to a Black CDC, Black controlled land trust, affordable rental and ownership. So that's around business and economic development, Black food sovereignty, and permanently affordable rental and home ownership. So those things are listed there, community health and cohesion. So I'd love to, for HAAB members and our guests, what are we missing here? What do these priorities ring true for you? Are there things that maybe we're overlooking? I want to remind us again that this was brought together by a process of bringing other Black community members. So this is just a basis, but we want to hear from you. Do you feel like there are other things that are a priority that we should be leaning into in regards to the investment from this infrastructure project?
I have some initial thoughts that I would just like to kind of throw on the wall and see if they stick.
Yeah.
When we talk about, and it's not that anything is missing or overlooked. Like I said, it's just a thought. So when I think of the word community, we have just a few components of this as a community. The health, the wealth is going to be foundational, because if you don't have the jobs or the economic drivers, then people can't afford rent anyway. So I think housing, if I had to, one way to look at it is just having the foundational economic engine going. And then from there, everything builds on top. So you can have all the housing in the world, but people don't have the ways to pay for their rent, then that doesn't mean a thing. Those units will sit empty. But when I think of community, there's often what constitutes a community, just textbook base, is going to be hospital, a bank, schools, And, you know, often sometimes you'll hear like churches or whatever else. But my point in saying that, going back historically, the reason why we never were able to kind of grow roots, not only due to redlining, but our population is always the one that's on the move. We're always gentrified out somewhere where we're no longer wanted, because we do lack that community. I think the community is just I think not having all of the foundational pieces. Sorry, my mind is scattered. I know what I want to say, but it's not coming out quite right. I think we have a lot of it here, but I mean, it may be overarching, but I don't see nothing wrong with, you know, wanting to create like a bank or some type of funding, which the CDC, I guess, could be, you know, some angle of that, whether it's just some type of funding mechanism to continue to establish wealth. So anyways, I'll stop there.
No, that's
That's the
great.
only other thing that I would add, and maybe a school, not just affordable childcare, but actually a school. So.
Other thoughts, Joy?
Yeah, I have some questions, and I know this is my first meeting, so I missed a lot in getting onboarded. This is the list that folks have identified they would like to see on the overlay. They would like, oh, okay.
Kind of in the Rose Quarter area. So there was an independent assessment done. An independent team came in and they brought community members together and asked them to dream. So about the Rose Quarter project and what the caps and the kind of surrounding terra firma and what could be possible within that space.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. I love starting from a place of abundance. You know what I am really thinking about in this moment is just really clear metrics on how we would measure this and what accountability looks like. I think this is really beautiful, but if we don't actually have a body of folks, I don't know if this group is going to continue way beyond kind of after we complete our scope. But I do know a lot of the things on this list requires ongoing accountability measurement and metrics associated with it. I'm thinking quite a lot about some community benefit agreements that I've seen around the country, and where they all fall short is that you need groups in place that can hold powers at bay to make sure that this happens. I know that a Viner Vision Trust can only do so much. So wanting to make sure that we have some really clear lines and metrics of what it looks like in this project is really important to me. Thinking about what Mr. Posey said before, I think it would be really nice to talk about and have some priorities around contracting goals in terms of what percentage, not just for this project, but, you know, if we're dreaming big, what we would like to see for the whole area in terms of making sure that Black businesses and contractors are involved in this process, not just, and then actually reporting on what that looks like, not just if it's owned by Black folks, but making sure actually that wealth is distributed within their company and that it's not just a bunch of Black folks working entry-level jobs and in ownership, but really what does it look like in terms of management. So I'm thinking a lot about what Mr. Posey said in terms of minority, women-owned, and emerging contracting, but also going a step beyond what we typically see in state projects to really be really clear about what we're looking for and opportunities to measure that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Megan, did you want to chime in there?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I can't wait to share the project's diversity and subcontracting plan with you. And Joy, I have to ask, is it Joy or is it Joy Elise? I want to make sure that I'm saying your right name.
Thank you. It's Joy Elise.
Joy Elise, great, thank you. So Joy Elise, I'm so excited to share that with you because I think it hits on a lot of the points that you just mentioned around like that upfront and intentional diversity planning, looking at the project. The I-5 Rose Quarter project and sort of what are our disadvantaged business enterprise goals? What are our workforce goals? How do we maximize opportunities for DBEs? How do we maximize the diversity that we see of the individuals and community building the project? So there's a lot of information there that we can share with you. And then I think, like, you know, in addition to what ODOT can kind of directly control and move forward in terms of broader goals around that on the transportation and highway cover piece of it, also like that, the work with City of Portland, and future development of what will go on top of the highway cover, all of this is gonna feed together there. So just really appreciate your comments on that, and really, yeah, just want to make sure that we're carrying that forward as we go.
Absolutely. Thanks, Megan. And Estelle, I think, number one on this list right here is that Black CDC and a Black controlled land trust. And that brings in the governance piece that you were speaking to and how important it is to make sure that it really is a community led. Do you feel like that bullet speaks to some of the things you were communicating? Do you feel like there's a deeper level to that? I know that needs to be established. That's that governance piece and how the community is involved in that, a part of that, because that establishment of the CDC, from my understanding, would be that they would help to govern what takes place there. So I don't want to add to it, but maybe is there something missing in that bullet that you want to maybe drill down in deeper?
And as for me, yeah, I really appreciate that. I'm, thinking from a place of abundance. I would love to see like multiple Black CDCs in this space where, many organizations are doing the work that's needed, knowing that again, not one can hold it. So it might be establishing, and I also want to hold the fact that a lot of us are asked to be a part of committees like this all the time, and we're spread really thin. And I really do wish there was a more centralized way that we can all come together, that we're looking at kind of the region and the area as a whole. So I would say maybe it's establishing kind of an ongoing space that maybe allows for ODOT and the city and the county and even Metro to be able to give updates very more clearly, so we can look at this a little bit more holistically.
That's great. Abiel, I'd love to hear from you as a youth ambassador if there are things that would be really important to the next generation that maybe we're missing on this list.
So after looking at this, I think all the things listed are important. What I really think is important for like me or like my my age range is like the second to last one, develop a Black cultural center that showcases the history of Black Portland. I think that's a really good idea. But yeah, the first two, community wealth and community health, are really important in my opinion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good to hear that that's a place of wanting to connect to the history here. I appreciate that. Mr. Modica, Estelle, Ebony, any other thoughts around, are there concerns or questions or other considerations? I know that I heard your concern, Estelle, about the community not being a part of the governance communications and conversations. Are there other concerns or questions, considerations that you want to give to the group? Mr. Modica, are you unmuting?
I am unmuted, and I was given space for sister to speak, but for me, what speaks loudest is the establishment of Career Training and Advancement Center. And I'd go even further and just say that community safety, service, and civics is so important. I mean, there are those of us in my cohort that have kind of let go of, what it takes to participate, what you need to know, and then even more, how do you find out the information, right? There should always be a succession plan, because we're not all going to be here forever. And so we must build this with succession in mind, so that we have a ready and motivated cohort that will continue to advance the purpose.
I think we might, yeah.
We have about 1 minute.
Yep, we've got about 1 minute. I see a second for the Civic Hub. Any this conversation could go on. Hopefully, we'll have another opportunity to engage with all of you. HAAB members, yes, and our guest. Thank you, Abiel. We'll be together in section 3 again as we break out. Thank you for diving in right here. And I think they're going to shift us back in about 60 seconds.
Thank you, Erica. Yeah, no, this is a great conversation, and I think it'll lead to many more great discussions.
Thank you. Bill, how are you feeling? You have our notes to head us back?
Yes, I've got our notes. I've got some captured some of the ideas as best I could and got a whole list of things ready to kind of bullet point out.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Breakout room number 2. And we are going to continue our conversation. What I want to do is hear from those we haven't had a chance to hear from to talk about priorities. That's our whole purpose for this particular moment. What other priorities and would you see maybe that weren't named, or you can lean in on the ones that have been highlighted. We have a note taker in this space, and we'd love to hear from your voice. Hello, Dr. Richard. I don't think I saw you earlier. Glad you're with us. So, priorities. Who would like to share first? Would like to talk first? Hello. Hi, Raven.
Hi, you all again. Glad to be here. I really wanted to start off talking about kind of the situation with youth. Benson Polytechnic High School is right close to this project, and one of the things that I firstly didn't necessarily see was kind of hitting that high school and college age. That's something that's important to me, and I think adding in that third space is places where young people like myself don't have to pay to be there or engage in an enclosed building or enclosed space is important. And so that's one of the priorities that I wanted to just add and start off with.
Raven, would you want to expound a little bit when you say closed in space? Are you thinking,
yeah.
You're not talking about a mall?
No, absolutely not. When I'm talking about third space is like one of the examples of I would say a third space would be a library, but not everybody is always trying to be in a library because libraries are free. We love them. The one by my house has the worst lighting ever, so I don't even go there. But when I mean an enclosed building, an enclosed space, what I mean is genuinely that, not just a plaza or a park in which we can come to be outside, but genuinely a space that is created for the purpose that it's not for profit, but can hold space for individuals of that high school, college age.
Okay, thank you.
Sense. Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense to me. I got another question for you real quickly.
for sure.
So is it a hangout space? Is it a reading space? Is it a combination of both? Obviously, we're not talking about a club. We're not talking about that kind of thing. We're talking about some specific environment that's intentional.
Yeah. I see that in architecture. I see that in as a flex space. So it could be have community meetings. It could be whatever, it could be conference area. But I think that it should be, the biggest thing that I really mean when I talk about it genuinely is a space that is something that you don't have to pay $5 or you know what I mean? Like if you, it's not a cafe, but it could be a cafe. It's really just a flex space with the purpose of continuing to bridge high school, college age. Yeah. I saw like a career center, career training somewhere in the priority that like caught my eye. So something like, it can be added to certain programs, to building programs, but it has the purpose to capture that age range.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Karanja, any thoughts? Good to see you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm still learning. It's my first meeting, so I'm just soaking everything up. The only thoughts I have is I need to look at the timeline. This is going to be a long project, right? Like years in the making. Like how many years?
We're looking right now at 2030. We may
Okay.
be a little beyond that. Carrie, am I accurate on the 2030?
I appreciate your optimism. It's like in reality we'd be finishing up around 2032, 2034, honestly. Going to be a 6 to 10 year build for the full project. Okay.
Yeah, so my thought would be were any other resources going to go towards the educational piece to our young people? Like, for example, I'm designing a curriculum that teaches the history of albino and things that happened to us. And I'm just curious of the educational piece of our future generation. You know, if 2030, how many years is that from now? About 10.
We've got 6.
So, you know, the
now,
elementary school kids will, you know, be close to graduating, you know, from high school. So I'm just thinking about a curriculum that can be implemented in schools that will teach them about what is happening and what we're doing and how we're building the future for them.
now, are you thinking that that gets played out in Portland public schools, or is
Or
that
any school district, or, you know, just in general, just the education piece to our young people, pretty much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Mr. Washington, your thoughts?
Yeah, that's you know, business has always been to me the backbone of America. Small business, well, small family business. But I'm a little bit concerned at the shifting of how business is evolving. What is a real valuable business in today's climate, right? Now, you go to white demographics, all the usual suspects, it's usually with clothing stores, you got restaurants, you got all that, people going in and out of them buying stuff. But in the hood, it's not the same, man. So what is the valuable business? And the fact that everybody wants to be an online star, even more so than a doctor, the young age, So when he was talking about flex space, what would be a key type of business in flex space? Maybe a studio, maybe whatever. So, man, I'm, at the Soul District, we're trying to somehow or another continue to re-innovate, or identify with the shift what types of businesses are effective businesses that can serve our community, that's outside the traditional businesses. But being conscious that a 10-year plan is a 10-year plan, but businesses are failing right now. So we have to continue to grow people to our finish line, not just assuming that when we get to the finish line, people are going to be grown up to match and income and intelligence and so forth and so on to be able to marry up with all those exciting structural development dollars that we're putting into building housing and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, not to mention the addition of AI into
yeah. Oh yeah,
right.
light years, right? It's going to change. What you heard, just talking to your phone and they deliver.
Yeah.
That's about the extent of your business. You could be going anywhere with your business in your back pocket.
The cultural business hub was one of the priorities that was identified, and specifically, a cultural business hub is designed for Black people, Black business interests, Black business issues, some small business incubation, some seed development.
Therein lies another pet peeve for me, Dr. Holt. Excuse. There's a concern, and the concern was a number of times that even with Modica and all of them, these entities that choose our leadership for us. Now, as a business, as the director of the business association over here, the concern is the shaping of the business districts being made different by putting these business hubs up in them. How does the marriage between the community or the pre-existing organizations that do business for businesses, how does those marry up? Okay. So there's a concern that we have. I mean, yeah, you put up 3 of them in an area, then how does that affect the business association? Do they become a part of that? Because the way the RFPs and all that come out is for people who know how to build things, blah, 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 you know, so I'm a little bit curious as to how that's going to do the long-term impact of having business hubs in the district. What is it going to do to the business?
That's a great question. We have Amy Nagy. If you want to respond from Prosper Portland at all, it might be great.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Amy Nagy, Prosper Portland. I think I know most of you, so it's good to see you. So I think just giving context real quick to folks that aren't living in the Northeast Action Plan. This is an action plan that was informed by community some years ago that had key goals of where community wanted investment to happen in the in this area, in the interstate and convention center area. The call for that, as you'll recall, Mr. Washington, is around all of the kind of attributes that Dr. Holt described, but also around the ownership for those buildings to be Black owned, right? And so the goal with putting that out is finding those partners who have some of that expertise, have access to capital, et cetera, have an idea of what they want to do in terms of the programming, and saying, this is what we've got now. How can we work together to put together some projects? So we're in that process now. We're going to be evaluating those shortly, and talking about what next steps look like.
Thank you very much. Mr. Richard, I'd love to hear from you, Dr. Richard, before we lose our time. We've got a couple minutes left.
I have about 5 minutes left, Dr. Holt.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Holt, and good to see everybody on this Zoom tonight. You know, for me, I'll say I'm a happy guy. You know, we got the $450 million, right? And I don't know if you had a set question, Dr. Holt.
It was just about if there was anything specific that you would add as a priority for our work.
Really, I think the only priority for me is to continue with the restorative justice / economic development. As we look at, you know, the $450 million and then the other funds that will be added to that at some point. And Dr. Holt, you know, and some of the ODOT folks know, I just, every now and again, I wanted just to remind us about the restorative justice piece. I think that's very, very important.
Agreed.
And I think JT Flowers, his interview he did with the news outlets was just so timely. And again, you know, it's around this economic justice. My only concern is, you know, Governor Kotek and her decision to, you know, pull the plug on the tolls. I think that's such an important piece to what we're doing. But, you know, I think, you know, for me, if we can just stay on target with that racial justice and economic equality, economic equity, I think that would be important. And then lastly, I would say just around, you know, when the project actually starts, you know, making sure that we are really intentional about minority-owned businesses being as part of this process as possible. So yeah, that's it for me. I'm pretty stoked these days. Thank you, Dr. Holt. I yield back to you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Who is my report out for our group? Who's doing our report? Okay, Megan, you've got some good stuff, right?
I do. Do you want me to read them back?
Please.
Yeah, okay. So 3 big priorities came to light. The first is the youth situation, looking for free places, flexible places, third places. Second priority needs to be more emphasis on small business, Black business, but not really just thinking about the individual businesses themselves, really thinking about the business ecosystem, what businesses support each other, making sure they're all co-located in the area so that everyone can bring each other up. And then the third priority I have is to continue to push restorative justice principles, and just noting that we're happy about the funding, but we really want to make sure that money is tied to those principles as we move through this process.
And we don't want to lose Karanja Cruz's comments on.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I was on it.
Well, repeat it back to me one more time then.
Yeah, about education. Yeah.
The education piece.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that. I think I looped that into something else. I'll break that out.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, great conversation. We come back together in a breakout group for module 3 or section 3. And we've got a few seconds before we are pulled back or what would you call it? Transported back into the larger group. So I appreciate your thoughts and thoughtfulness. Thanks for your time, for being here tonight. It's going to take all of our voices to make sure that what we do has generational impact. So I'm excited to be a part of this right now.
Hello, all. Welcome. Looks like we've got a couple more folks coming in, so we'll jump in here in just a moment. And we do have a note taker, so we'll have a report out back to the large group. And then we also have notes should there be additional things we want to uplift from the discussion today. I'm Shannon Singleton. I'm not normally a facilitator for this space, so I just wanted to introduce myself briefly. My pronouns are she and her, and I work on the owner's rep team. In this conversation, we've got some guests. You can see we've got folks from the city. Welcome, Shania. John is here with the Rose Quarter team, and we'll just want to make sure that we're centering the HAAB and HAAB guest in the conversation. So really the prompting question is, with the priorities that we just reviewed before the break, do they ring true to you? What other priorities should we consider? Are there any that might be missing from the list? And do you have any other concerns or questions that might be coming up as you think about those community priorities?
Yeah, I'll be happy to jump in here. So thank you, Shannon, for facilitating. My name is JT Flowers. I work with the Albina Vision Trust. My only addition would be that I think we need to situate our conversation in the greater context of all the development that's going on, not just in Lower Albina, but in the area. You know, we're lucky enough to have Bryson in this breakout room with us, Micah from the 1803 Fund, and Bryson is obviously the board chair of the Williams and Russell Project. And then obviously we also have the Albina Vision Work. So there are a number of moving pieces here in the district that are going to be speaking to and addressing different concrete needs that I've heard come up in the conversation that we've been having for the past hour and a half or so. And not losing sight of that when we start to think more actively about what could potentially be built atop the covers, I think would be a useful starting point for us.
Thank you. I see head nods to that. Bryson or Micah, anything you want to add in there?
No, I think that's probably my main thing too. You know, when we started on the Williams and Russell project, one of the key things that we worked on was learning about all the different projects that were happening around, and so kind of what the need was at the moment we were having the discussion, but also what the need was likely to be in the future. And you know, we don't want to go all in on one area where we've got 7 other projects that are doing the exact same thing, to the point where that need is overserved and then other needs are underserved. So getting a good round scope of the environment will be really helpful.
Thank you, Isabel. That would be great if you could screen share those priorities for folks. And thanks for raising that.
Can folks see the screen now?
We can.
Great.
And so again, just really thinking about, do they ring true for you? And what other priorities might we want to consider?
Yeah, I think these priorities
be consistent with what I've also heard in community and kind of on what is top of mind. I'd say two things that come up for me earlier in the process is around, it sounds like there's a hunger for in the infrastructure, the actual kind of development of the highway covers, for there to be a plan for involvement and prioritization of Black business owners and participating in that element as well, which I think could be helpful and maybe speak to some of the comments that are coming up in the larger group. And I'd also just say my kind of main consideration, even before getting to what is on the covers, is just making sure that when we do this type of infrastructure work, as Bryson laid out, we ensure that we're looking at what the future needs could be, and that the highway covers are supportive of future development and the kind of a significant loading capacity so that they can be built on in the future. So I think that would be my main priority in this process and envisioning it.
Thank you.
And is it okay if I jump in one more time?
Yes, please.
I also think one of the things that's missing here, unless I'm missing it and just reading through, is the prioritization of like the core functional purpose of this project as it originated prior to the community getting its hands on it, which this is a transportation project, right? So really being cognizant of the transit implications of the work that we're doing, right? We are reconnecting streets that are currently severed by the highway. We are rerouting on and off ramps that are going to entirely change the traffic flows and dynamics of this district. And that we know good and well from the history of the decimation of our community will have incredibly concrete impacts on the livability, accessibility, and general well-being of the district once this project is completed.
Thank you. And sorry, I didn't realize I wasn't on mute and I was doing a lot of mm-hms out loud. So thanks for that, Grace. Stephen or Andrew, anything you'd like to add to the conversation? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lakanya. I'm sorry, I mispronounced your name.
Lakanya, but those two individuals can go and I can share.
I'm not speaking after that guy. He can go. He can go. Or I am speaking after that guy. I'm not going to take his over.
The only other things I would just add to this is I see the affordable childcare and child development center, but I think education should be a big priority in this that I don't see listed with the current administrative building in Lower Albina, and then also with Harriet Tubman. But then you also have Boise Elliott, and then if you go up a little bit further, Jefferson High School. And so I think Black education, when I look at like the health of communities, it's jobs, it's wealth, which is up here, is the health, but it's also the education. And then I think a separate piece outside of the education that I would like to personally see, I think is a part of what a lot of people are talking about, but it could also be a separate conversation. It's just self-determination of the Black community and not just granted within spaces that are like this, that are created, but like, how are we contributing to the overall self-determination of the community, which is something that should be a goal supported by this project.
Thank you. Anything folks want to uplift about some of the comments in the large group as well about current funds and those funds getting into Black businesses as well? Go ahead, Bryson.
Yeah, well, I mean, I definitely would want to do that, but before I forget on the other pieces, building a little bit off of what JT was saying, thinking about how this is a little bit less of a concrete and also probably a little bit more of a thing to make sure that we don't do, which is create a structure that negatively impacts the community as it stands now, and also we don't want to create a structure or traffic flow or any sort of design related to the project that inhibits the developments around the cover. So I think having that kind of do as little harm as possible mentality, I think is going to be key to make sure that we include. And then, yeah, I mean, I think as you just mentioned, and echoing what Micah said, having an early focus and making sure that we're focusing on the businesses Black businesses being prioritized in the construction phase of the project. Because I think if we get a development up and running, but by the time we do that, people are already upset that that not enough Black businesses were included in the process, it's going to be hard for people to enjoy and appreciate anything that ends up getting built, because they're already going to be negatively predisposed to the project as a whole, and it's going to be hard for them to trust that some of the benefits that the project provides are actually being provided.
Thank you. Andrew.
Can I add on to that? Oh,
yes.
Go ahead, Andrew.
My bad, Stephen. And
you good. Go ahead.
Just to kind of echo to kind of like what's missing, I think, I mean, these are very, being with the HAAB for all the years that I have, even with Bryson, we know that these are like very top priorities. I think what's haven't really been said outside, like what like Yana mentioned with like education piece, I think other piece that could be focused on is just the safety piece, like the community safety piece, because then if the community feels safe, all of this stuff can happen in a sustainable way. So that's just one of the pieces that I think that needs to be included, or also to like really remember. So now it's all you, Stephen, the famous Stephen in the house, man.
I don't know about that. Thanks, Drew. So I guess a couple of things. One of the perspectives that I shared about when I was in the COAC was this idea that engaging and prioritizing Black contractors only matter when we're working on projects in Northeast Portland. ODOT's got a $6 billion biennial budget. This is small crumbs compared to the overall budget, and so I think there's systems changes where ODOT as an agency can change agency wide to prioritize underrepresented folks for contract opportunities, as opposed to, like, I love that all of us are around this table. I hope we see this same kind of diversity on projects in Hillsborough, in SIO, in Salem, and if we're not, then that's a conversation that needs to be had. Separately, like, all of these are really, really aspirational priorities, but as someone who's done a lot of real estate projects, like, there's a lot of stars that need to align. So I guess the biggest thing I always worry about is like managing expectations for folks in community, because when you're doing development projects, like, you celebrate when you get 72% of the project that you envisioned early on, right? Because you need so many things to align. And I think that's one of the things that oftentimes leaves the community back, is like, they have this 100% idea of what the project is, and then what gets built is different than that. And oftentimes people feel like, okay, we didn't get what we want. And then lastly, like, just open up this idea of abundance. I think we're here today because some dope Black women had some ideas around what this could be and weren't limited to scopes and that's brought us here today. So how do we bring that idea of abundance moving forward and have this be something that we can build on, as opposed to limiting by, we don't want to create too many of those, and if so-and-so is doing this, we can't have another one of those. Like, we've got the biggest Black community we've ever had in Portland, and we live everywhere in the region. So having one or two or three of something, that's okay in my book, because people are having a different lens on it.
Thank you. And we might get yanked out of here in about a minute. So JT and then Bryson, go ahead. But I want to just so that folks aren't surprised.
Okay, so I'll be super quick because I know I've been talking a lot. Last thing, the environmental impact. I think we need to, I know we've received our environmental clearance, but I think we need to be really constructive about, really proactive about trying to think about really technical things like ventilation, like energy storage, like energy creation, construction materials that are being used throughout the process that could lower carbon emissions, just very concrete things that will benefit the livability of the district, especially if we're trying to put Black and brown folks back in the area.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then to build off of Steven's stuff, make sure we got good government funding to make things happen that we want have happen. And really, if we build something good, we can shake Portland's image as like a white-only city. And I think that will benefit the entire metro area.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much. We'll see y'all back in the big room, and we'll do just a brief report out. So if there's things you all want to uplift, just be prepared to share that out in the large group. Thank y'all.